Today we're taking a look at the best champions for every role in patch 13.10. This is a pretty juicy patch to say the least, so let's see what you guys should be abusing to climb that ladder. As usual, we're going to break down each role into 5 different categories, which are God tier, low elo, high elo, underrated, and the one to watch out for. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the top lane first as always, and our God tier choice just has to be Akshan. Akshan has been dominating in both of the solo lanes already recently, and the big item changes coming in this week are only going to make him even better. Akshan just has everything he needs to 1v9 games, with a strong early game and lane phase, a ridiculous snowball potential, fantastic roaming, and let's be honest, a pretty overloaded kit, which means he can revive his entire team if he kills the right enemy. So if you enjoy swinging around the battlefield and slapping your enemies down at the same time, pick Akshan. If you want to stay up to date with the best Akshan builds and runes, then click the first link in the description to head straight to our champion page for him. There you can see 4 different build paths to choose from with his highest performing setups and import them straight into your client with just one click. For our low elo pick of the patch in the top lane, we've gone for Alawi. Alawi has been flying a little bit under the radar recently, performing much better than people realise. She gets set up in a side lane, split pushes until the sun goes down and kills everybody that tries to stop her. I genuinely think that the majority of the player base still don't have a clue what this champion does, and this shows with just how much your enemies will constantly underestimate you. A few item buffs to Alawi's main build this patch too will also help, and the fact that Sterak's gauge now has tenacity means you're going to 1v5 more often. For our high elo pick, we've gone for Jax. Now this one is one that we could have said every single time we made these videos recently. Jax has been fantastic at the higher ranks ever since those changes that came in a little while back. And with AD carries and assassins and Master Yi's running riot all over the Rift, then Jax is a great choice to go for. Pressure E, jump on top of them, avoid all their damage, and deal tons of damage yourself. Our underrated choice for the top lane this patch is Aatrox. Now since his buffs a little while ago, he has started to come back into the meta, and the best Aatrox players are still some of the scariest things in the game to play against. Aatrox has some solid damage, some decent mobility, but it's really his ability to 1v2 the enemy top and jungler is what makes him so hard to beat. The sustain from his ultimate, the movement speed, the dashes, the sweet spots, and everything else that comes along with it. If you can pull off Aatrox consistently, he's a great choice to carry with, and not too many people are really playing him yet. Finally, our champion to watch out for in the top lane this patch is Kayle. The new Rage Blade is going to be absolutely bonkers on this champion. Hybrid itemization and Kayle go hand in hand, and if you get to level 16 on this champion without inting, you're probably going to 1v5. Seriously though, the amount of AoE DPS you can deal on Kayle is like no other champions in the game. Kayle is also going to benefit from some of the system changes coming in this week. Unleashed Teleport is now upgraded down from 14 minutes to 10, the Blast Cones have been nerfed towards the river, and the side lane minions are going to get to lanes quicker, which means if you can farm efficiently, get that experience, and get to level 16 sooner and more often, you're going to get in those team fights and kill everyone in a matter of seconds. Into the jungle now, and this could be a seriously scary role this week, and I'm sure you already know who's going to be in the God tier is Kha'Zix. So why is Kha'Zix going to be so good? Well, 2 things. 1, everything else is nerfed, and 2, assassins are buffed. That's the simple way to put it, but the new Yumu's Ghostblade is now a mythic item, and it's literally perfect for Kha'Zix. It now increases his movement speed for 6 seconds and provides ghosting on a 45-second cooldown. Assassins are going to be so much stronger this patch, and guess what? A Kha'Zix is probably the best of the bunch. Lock in Kha'Zix, get level 6, evolve your ultimate first, buy yourself a Yumu's Ghostblade and run around the map in stealth and kill everyone in sight. GG, well played. Our low elo jungler to play this patch is Amumu. He was already in a fantastic spot before patch 13.10. And with some general buffs to some of his more situational items, he's looking seriously hard to beat. You've got his typical route of Demonic Embrace and Jackshow, but the improved Abyssal Mask is combining with his passive to allow him to demolish entire teams in just a few clicks. There's also other options like Evan Shroud for even more burst, which is another reason why he's also just so good in support too. Amumu has been having a great season. He always seems to be at least viable, but right now he's just looking borderline abusable. So if you haven't been playing him already, give him a go. In high elo though, you just can't go wrong with Rengar. We've already spoken about just how good the new assassin items are, and this is also going to suit Rengar massively. Now you do need a bit more skill and a bit more practice to pull off Rengar consistently, but if you can, his carry potential is absolutely bonkers. The Carnage Kitty has so much burst damage, so much mobility and brushes, solid ganks with his Empowered E and his ultimate, and if he does get a bit too fed, well, goodbye to your health bar. Good Rengar players can outplay enemies against all of the odds in all sorts of different situations, from the perfect cleanses with his Empowered W to just jumping around and assassinating everybody. So if you are good enough to play Rengar, now's the best time to do it. For our underrated jungler, you should consider giving Trundle a go. He has been much better since his recent buffs to his base stats, and his win rate across the board is actually pretty damn impressive. Trundle packs so much early game damage with those bites on his Q, and if he finds himself in a 1v1 against pretty much any champion in the game, he's almost always going to win. You pop your W down, you get that lethal tempo ramped up and ready, and you bite your enemies until their head falls off. Trundle has never really been known for his ganks, but you can make it work if you land that pillar perfectly. It really is all about dueling the enemy jungler, ruining their day, and shredding objectives and melting them off the map though. So if you do enjoy Trundle's slightly different jungle playstyle, now's the best time to play him, because everybody has forgotten just how good he can be. Finally, our one to watch out for in the jungle this patch will surprise nobody. It's Master Yi. Over recent weeks, Master Yi has just been a bit godlike at pretty much every single rank in the game, and the item changes coming in this week are definitely not going to make him any worse. His build path probably isn't going to change that much, it's just going to get 10 times better. Blade of the Ruin King and Guinsu's Rage Blade are going to make him spike like nothing you've ever seen before. So Master Yi is still going to do the things he does best of running into teams with his ultimate, spamming those Q resets and farming pentakills. Enchanters are also going to be a little bit more prioritized this patch as well with a new support item, and Enchanters with Yi is GG. So if you aren't going to play Master Yi, it might be worth banning him. Moving down to the mid lane now then, and in the god tier we've gone for Aurelion Sol. No big nerfs, no major changes to any mage items means that Aurelion Sol is still going to be farming LP like it's going out of fashion. For a champion that scales like a literal god, he's not easy to punish in the lane phase too. And if you don't have any CC to stop his W, he's just going to walk back to his tower and live to farm and fight another day. Aurelion Sol has crazy amounts of AoE damage with his E and his ultimate, he has relentless DPS with his Q, and alongside the mobility from his W, he can be quite a handful to say the least. Now if you've played any League of Legends over the last few months, you'll already know just how crazily strong Aurelion Sol can be. And aside from a few different matchups coming into the mid lane, this probably isn't going to change too much. If you are struggling to find counter picks for Aurelion Sol, then check out our counters page on our website by clicking the link in the description. There you can see in-depth information on how to beat him, but even more importantly, you can see all the highest performing picks based on stats and win rates and take that with you into your next game. We provide 5 statistically matched counter picks for every single champion your enemy locks in Champion Select. So why not make the most out of it with our desktop app? Moving on to our low elo mid laner of the patch, and we've gone for Pantheon. Now a lot of people are going to be experimenting with the new melee assassins in the mid lane with all those Ghostblade changes and mythic items, so why not pick a melee stomping powerhouse in the mid lane in Pantheon? Pantheon has had a fantastic season so far. He has crazy early game damage, he has amazing gank setup with his point and click W stun, he can roam around the map super easily with his ultimate, and he has a ton of variety and versatility in his item builds, from full glass cannon lethality to anti-tank with Blade of the Ruin King Black Cleaver, and everything else in between. You really can't go wrong with Pantheon at all this season, and this patch nothing's really going to change. No nerfs to him means he's still going to be a bit busted. For you high elo mid lane mains, you've got to try Talon this week. The new Yumu's Ghostblade Mythic is just made for this guy, and if you've got what it takes to abuse his mobility and roam around the map and devastate the entire Summoner's Rift, then there's not going to be many better. Talon has already been performing really well in higher ranks, and there's just no doubt in anyone's mind that he's not going to get better this patch. If Talon gets fed, he is a literal nightmare for any AD carry mate, because he's going to jump over 7 walls, jump on top of you with his blink, and one-shot you down with his ultimate. So pick up that new Mythic Ghostblade, combine it with a Prowler's Claw, sprint and zoom and jump around the map, one-shotting everybody in your path and gaining a ton of elo along the way. For the underrated mid laner, we've gone for Swain this patch. Swain has been flying under the radar in the mid lane for such a long time, and with the buffs recently, he's only got better. And with no real item changes to any of his core builds this week, he's just not going to get any worse. Swain is a lane bully with his Q, he's got great gank setup in his E, and once he gets that ultimate, he turns into a literal raid boss. He can fight for what seems like forever as long as he keeps that ultimate ticking, firing out tons of damage with his Qs and his Es, and being so hard to take down with his tanky AP bruiser itemization. So whether you go La Injuries and build towards more damage, or whether you go Jackshow and just be an absolute brick wall unit of a tanky AP monster, you just can't go wrong with Swain. Finally, our one to watch out for this week is the one and only Katarina. Every time Riot make big changes to hybrid items or any kind of item, to be honest, Katarina players just lick their lips at the chance of trying something new. Whether it's AD Sundra weird on hit builds, full glass cannon mage assassin, or some weird funky hybrid combination of all of the above. There are so many ways that Katarina mains are going to try and abuse all of these different item changes. And generally speaking, Katarina is always one of those champions you never really want to underestimate. She's the queen of roaming and snowballing, and with the TP changes coming in this week, TP Ignite Katarina mid is definitely going to bounce back. If you're in a good matchup, you can try and kill your enemies from as early as level 2 or 3, or if not, you just abandon ship and carry the rest of the map instead. Either way though, just remember that Katarina exists and be careful. Down to those AD carries now, and some pretty exciting changes coming to this role for this week. And our god tier marksman to play this patch is Kog'Maw. The new Gwinsu's Rage Blade is a match made in heaven for Kog'Maw, and in combination with his already strong on-hit itemization, he can tear through any type of target in seconds. Now, he's already been pretty underrated since his buffs a few patches ago, and he's already been maintaining a seriously impressive win rate. But with these changes, it's safe to say that he's going to be absolutely bonkers. You basically just rush that Rage Blade as soon as you can, then you can get items like Runarns or Blade of the Rune King or even Kraken or Shield Bow. There's so many different options, but as long as you get that Rage Blade, this is all you need to start popping off. And then once you get that second item in Runarns, you're going to delete everybody. And if you do manage to pick Kog'Maw alongside a good enchanter like Melio or Yuumi, you're going to have a lot of fun. For our low elo pick in the bot lane, we've gone for Jhin, and you can easily carry it every single rank with Jhin, but we just had to fit him in here somewhere. Now, the new Storm Razor is looking exceptionally spicy, and with Gale Force being Jhin's bread and butter, this item combo is definitely one to respect. The movement speed and mobility work perfectly alongside Jhin's kit, and he'll be zooming around the rift, one-shotting people without too much trouble. You can pretty much pick Jhin into most drafts with most supports and always have a chance to pop off and stomp your lane. But if you don't, you just sit back, fire off that long range artillery and kite back if anyone gets too close. Jhin has all the tools he needs to carry solo queue, and with these big item changes, he is definitely one to be careful of. For all of you mechanical demons in high elo, you just can't go wrong with Draven. The new Ghost Blade looks absolutely broken, as I'm sure you all already know by now, or you can just go for Infinity Edge. But either way, you get that Essence Reaver and you deal a ton of damage. And as long as you can catch those axes consistently and cash in on that passive aggressively, you're going to get super fed and win a lot of games if you do have what it takes. For our underrated pick to go for in the bot lane, we've gone for Varus. Now again, you've got the option of going for his lethality build with the new Youmuu's Ghost Blade, or you can go on hit with the new Gwinsu's Rage Blade, or you can even go for the juicy AP build. He has a huge variety of itemization options to play with, from close range kiting and DPS, long range sniping and burst, or one-shotting those tanks from a distance with AP. Varus works in so many different lanes with so many different supports and against most matchups too. And no matter what happens in the lane phase, you'll always have that ultimate to contribute into fights. Varus has been flying a little bit under the radar recently, but it could be a great time to pick him back up again. Finally, our AD carry to watch out for this patch just has to be Ezreal. With great power comes great responsibility, and the new items open up so many different options for this guy. Ezreal was already performing really well though, maintaining a pretty damn impressive win rate, which is actually even more impressive for Ezreal, seeing as he's actually quite difficult to play well. You've got those typical core items like Essence Reaver and Rhea Mana, and the new mythic Navori Quick Blades is just a perfect fit. Ezreal really does have the ability to 1v5 in most team fights once he gets those core items online. The constant poke with those mystic shots, the crazy mobility with his E on such a low cooldown thanks to his Navori Quick Blades, and of course his passive reducing its cooldown. Good Ezreal players always have the opportunity to outplay enemies against all of the odds. So if you are good enough to pull him off consistently, there's not many better right now. Finally, let's move on to those supports last, and our god tier choice just has to be Rakan. Nothing has really changed for Rakan this patch, but that doesn't really matter because he's been one of the best supports in the game all season. Rakan has so much to offer with his mobility. He's the slipperiest support in the entire game. He can dash through teams, shield his friends, knock up enemies, and charm entire teams in confined spaces. Rakan really does have it all. Engage, disengage, utility, shields, heals, and everything else along that goes with it. And the good Rakan players can really abuse all of these things to carry games from that support role. He's also a great support into so many different lanes too. So if you get good at this champion, you could pretty much pick him every single game right now. For our low elo pick of the patch this week, we've gone for Sona. The new support item Echoes of Helia is just a perfect fit for Sona. She is the definition of a shielding and healing enchanting support. And if you manage to get through that lane phase without being farmed, well, you are going to dish out ridiculous amounts of utility in team fights. The constant poke with your Q, relentless heals with your W, movement speed slows and boosts with your E, and then of course a game-changing AoE stun in your ultimate. Sona is one of those supports you're never really too worried about when you see them locked in, but then it gets to that late game and you remember just how good she can be. If she positions well enough, you can't actually get on top of her while she keeps all of her teammates shielded and healed up. And if you pick her in the bot lane alongside a Seraphine, it's going to be pretty easy elo. For you high elo players, Senna is still going to be a great choice to carry with in that support role this patch. Her itemization hasn't really changed too much, apart from the fact you can now build Eclipse and Kraken Slayer in the same game. Senna still has all of those great strengths she already offered: sustain, poke, fantastic scaling, and the ability to turn into the AD carry in the late game if her AD carry isn't the best. Seriously though, the amount of damage from range that Senna can pump out in late game teamfights is ridiculous, and it's safe to say that there's no other support in the game that can do what she does. You can melt through all types of target, you can annihilate tanks, you can assassinate squishies with those walled Qs, and there's nothing more satisfying than landing an across the map ultimate. Senna has a lot of unique things to bring to the table, and she's definitely not getting any worse this patch, so if you do enjoy playing her, crack on. Our underrated support to go for in patch 13.10 is Maokai, and honestly we can include this guy every single time. He always has a pretty low pick rate but a surprisingly good win rate. And when you think about it, it's pretty easy to understand why he's so good. He literally has the most reliable CC ability in the game in his W. It is literally a point and click bit of CC that you can take from as early as level 1. So when you hit level 2, jump onto them with your W, knock them back into your AD carry with your Q, and basically just rinse and repeat this until the enemy AD carry is 0-10 and the enemy team surrender. Maokai offers so much CC throughout all stages of the game, from flashing onto backlines to locking down entire teams with his ultimate just in time for a dragon fight. Maokai is so easy to play and super easy to be impactful on too, so if you enjoy that tanky, supporting, engaging playstyle, don't sleep on the tree. Finally, we've got our support to watch out for this patch, and it's actually going to be Karma. Now you may be thinking that Karma's been a little bit rubbish for a while, and you wouldn't really be wrong, but the fact is the new support item was basically made for her, and when you build this alongside Imperial Mandate, because that's no longer a mythic item, this combination of items is absolutely devastating. We tried a little bit of this on the PBE and it felt really strong. She's got solid poke damage in lane with those empowered Qs, she's got healing, she's got sustain, she's got shields for days, and she's honestly one of those champions you don't want to underestimate. She can dish out so much in the lane phase and dominate 2v2s. She offers so much for her team in early teamfights, and when your assassin jungler jumps into your lane with a new ghost blade and you pop that E on them, they're going to be even faster and even harder to deal with. So if you enjoy a jack of all trades support with a ton to offer, consider giving Karma a go this patch, and you may just surprise yourself. Well, that brings us to the end of our best champions for every role in patch 13.10. We wish you all the best of luck in your solo queue endeavors this patch, and let us know in the comments who you're having the most success with. Don't forget to download Mobalytics before you go by clicking the link in the description. And as always guys, take care.